Hello and welcome back to Spookier Celluloid, and I just saw that my audio volumes are very high. I don't think I adjusted this very well, but at the same time it always comes very low whenever I actually edit these. I don't know why. I boost the gain up in post. You guys don't care about technical stuff. You guys want to hear about the Gruesome Twosome, which is a film that I watched tonight that I just got done watching, of course, by legendary director Herschel Gordon Lewis. Now I just have to be careful not to get him confused with my friend Herschel Gillis, who named his alias, because yes, if you didn't know, Herschel Gillis isn't his real name. I would dox him right now, but I can't, but yeah. Herschel Gordon Lewis, which as I was watching this movie, I was exactly talking to Herschel, the friend of mine, telling him that Herschel Gordon Lewis might be one of my favorite directors, yet he's probably the director I have his movies rated the lowest, because let's be honest, it wasn't great. Didn't make a lot of great films. The one that I would consider actually like being good, like in like objective sense, would be 2000 Maniacs. The Gruesome Twosome is objectively a terrible movie in every goddamn way. Subjectively, I think this is up there with one of my favorites from Mr. Lewis. So this is clearly... So I watched the intro before, that's on the Blu-ray before the film, where Lewis says that this was planned to be a comedy. And he said that a lot of people were going to see the Gruesome Twosome that would never go to splatter films, or gore films, as he'd call them, but they would go to Gruesome Twosome and films of that nature because for the comedy. Now, of course, comedy doesn't age well, and especially from a film from 1967, I don't think modern comedy really matches with comedy that's from over 50-something years. However, I did find myself laughing, not just at the parts I wasn't supposed to laugh at, mainly the god-awful acting, but I actually found myself laughing at parts that I assume were supposed to be the comedic bits. Herschel Gordon Lewis had one talent. Well, he had many, but one of his biggest talent was consistently finding the worst actors ever. Now, I know he made these low budget in Florida with local people, but holy shit, the acting in this is awful. Our main leading lady, Kathy, terrible. She's a god-awful actress. One of the girls, I don't remember her name, she's in a scene where she screams that she loves this guy named Terrence. She has to be the worst actress I've ever seen in a film production ever. She is top tier shit. But the film is fairly entertaining, even though it's not good in any sense. So what is it about? It's such a simple plot. It's this crazy old lady that lives with her crazy son, and you know the characters in this might be mentally challenged when they speak in the third person. So her son, who's clearly mentally challenged, speaks in the third person. She speaks in the third person. The janitor that Kathy, our main actress, blames to be the killer at the beginning of the film, who's also probably mentally challenged, speaks in the third person. It's just, I guess that was stereotype of the time. If you're either a villain in a James Bond movie or a mentally challenged person in an HGL film, you spoke in the third person. So it's quite silly. So anyway, that old lady who has a stuffed cat, a taxidermied cat, named Napoleon, and her son, well, they kill young women to scalp them and take their hair, because she runs a wig shop. And the film starts with two mannequin heads with wigs talking. What? So The film basically is she kills the old lady's son killed these college co-heads, and the town gets scared of like college girls disappearing. So one of our main ladies, Kathy, she's a bit of a curious cat, and she really wants to discover who killed the other college co-heads. So one of her thoughts is, of course, the weird, creepy janitor. So she'll follow him to his house because she saw him put bones in bags. Which, yes, it's weird, but he was like cooking with the bones. Like I said, the janitor is mentally challenged, and when he talks, don't really understand shit. Oh my god, that scene, and like this doesn't border, this goes full like goofy mode. This is a goofy ass movie because the entire time as she follows the janitor to his house, there's this silly, goofy kind of cartoonish music. Like, this clearly knows what this is. And then she goes back to her dorm with all of her friends who are all like pretty good looking ladies, especially like for 60s. Like, yeah, like they all look good. It's just they're very 60s, which for some people might be like a little strange because we're not used to that anymore. But for me, I don't mind. So they're like all in their bed in like their nightgowns, and one of them is, of course, eating KFC. If you want to do a drinking game while you're doing a Herschel Gordon Lewis marathon, drink every time somebody eats KFC. There's even one of his films, I think it's She Devils on Wheels. My friend Paul from Grindhouse Funhouse did review that one. I'm not sure if it's that one, where literally the Colonel himself acts in the movie. Why is that? I think Herschel Gordon Lewis had a deal with KFC where they would give him money so he would advertise KFC in his splatter gore films from the 60s. It's silly. It's silly, but it is there, which makes these movies even more perplexing. Like, what? Why is Colonel Sanders just hanging out, giving chicken? Anyways, Kathy, she keeps being a nosy little Kathy, and she keeps being a terrible, shitty actress, and eventually, one thing leads to another. There are some scenes. There's a beach party scene, because this is the late 60s. There's a dirt racing scene, because this is the 60s in Florida, and the Kathy's boyfriend, looks like a young JFK, and he's not really down for her being super curious about this murder, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna get in trouble, young lady," and she's like, "I don't care, my friend's probably dead." And then between that we see Rodney, the son of the old lady, just murder people, and you see people buying wigs, because again, she's murdering and scalping young women to make wigs. I don't know how lucrative the wig business was in the 60s, but is it really worth murdering like 100 people? and things, it's an Herschel Gordon Lewis movie. They all end the same. Somebody calls the police. They find Kathy getting attacked by Rodney. And then there's an exposition dump. The gore is surprisingly very good for the time. Like this and Blood Feast, like there's a contrast. Like this, the scalping scenes are like, whoa, that's pretty good for the era. And like the gut scenes, the blood is still that super saturated blood. But overall, like the gore is pretty good. And like I said, this might be one of my favorite Herschel Gordon Lewis film that I've seen, because I laughed my balls off. I was laughing through the entire thing, either from the comedy in the film or just the sheer weirdness that made me laugh. There's either the acting being terrible, the decisions being fairly strange, the characters just being over-the-top caricatures of themselves. I'd recommend this one. Now, H.G. Lewis's films weren't for everybody. Let's be clear, if you've watched some of his films and you hate them, don't watch this. This is the same type of thing. But if you're a fan of like these super low budget indie, very regional horror films from the 60s, first of all, you've probably already know about H.G. Lewis, but if you know about him and you've only seen the basic stuff, you know, the Blood Feast, the 2000 Maniacs, the Wizard of Gore, fuck you, Matt, it's a good movie. By the way, this all started, like, I didn't know I was gonna watch a Herschel Gordon Lewis film tonight. It's just, I saw that the man that plays the Wizard of Gore is at a convention in Canada, and I sent the screenshot to Matt from the Sick on Cinema podcast because he hates that movie. And I'm like, oh, we're missing out on John and Matt's favorite movie, and and then he just shat on the Wizard of Gore, and him shitting on the Wizard of Gore made me want to watch an H.G. Lewis film. So that's saying a lot about the quality of this film. Like, the fact that somebody was shitting hard on a movie made me want to watch it. And this transfer is good for what it is. It's god awful. It's so, the colors, it's desaturated. There's some weird spots of like orange and blue, and there's so many green scratches, and then it's intercut with footage, I guess, from either a beta probably transfer, and those, surprisingly enough, look better than the film restoration, but the beta one, I don't think the beta transfer plays at the right frame rate. So it's not Arrow's fault, by the way. It's not, I don't want to be like, oh, Arrow did a shit job, because the box set that this came in, like, the movies look great. It's just this probably had terrible negatives, like terrible, I'm pretty sure they didn't even use the negatives. Let's be honest. Just, it had terrible elements, and they had to do what they could with what it was. So I don't blame Arrow. It's the gruesome twosome. There is no way this movie can ever look like good. It looks like shit. It'll always look like shit, and it's part of the charm. So my rating, because I always forget I do ratings on this channel. This is a solid like 7.56. Like it's not enough for me to give it an 8. Even though this isn't like my top favorite Herschel Gordon Lewis film, there's just so much like long, dumb, unnecessary parts that like kind of make the film boring, and it's like 70 minutes long, so they shouldn't be like that. It's not the perfect film, but it made me laugh enough, and the gore is good enough, and it's just so like ballsy and goofy that I really liked it. So yeah, highly recommended. Thank you guys.